The next speakers are waiting to do their presentation, and it's Rachel and Ine from London Gatwick Airport. Give them a very warm hand.
Thank you, Ewout. Thank you for making me follow behind an Olympic champion. I mean, that's not going to be difficult, is it? So thank you very much for having us speak at the conference today. My name is Ine Shum, and in the true spirit of teamwork is my colleague Rachel Mason. So we form part of the asset management team at Gatwick Airport, and together we manage the Ultimo system to provide support to our engineering department, who really are the main users of the system. So today, hopefully, we'll give you an overview of our journey with Ultimo and how it's helped us to fulfill our business processes and our requirements for business information. So we will give you a bit of a backstory, talk about the implementation, talk about where we've got to today, maybe talk a little bit about the future, and then, if time allows, we can cover off any questions we have at the end. So, as I mentioned, let's go. Cool. Thanks. So, Ultimo is used to support the engineering department at Gatwick Airport. So, although it's a big airport, not as big as obviously what you guys have here, but a single department, we comprise of quite a few teams, and that includes the shuttle, which is basically the two trains that kind of run between North Terminal and South Terminal. We have airfield engineering, who look after our single runway, extremely valuable asset. And then we have life safety systems, for example, who look after fire detection and fire suppression. So across those teams, there are approximately 85,000 assets that we have on our system. So obviously, some teams, life safety systems, will have more, and airfield engineering, who look after the airfield, may only have, I don't want to say just one, because it's not just one. It's a valuable one, but of course, they look after the runway. So Ultimo really helps to support the maintenance and asset management of all of those, of our asset base. And in the same way that engineering doesn't work in isolation, they work with different teams across the airport, we need to make sure that obviously Ultimo has integration with that. So for example, we use SAP for stock management, so when jobs are closed out, obviously parts are booked out, that has integration with SAP. We also have Meridian. That's really our document management system. It's very much about document control. Rachel will touch on that shortly, because it's one of our business processes that kind of works slightly outside of Gatwick, slightly outside of Ultimo, but is obviously integrated. So before I let Rachel take you back in time on this little journey, it's probably worth talking about some of the benefits that we've really kind of experienced since using Ultimo. So from our perspective, let's say a system admin perspective, we have obviously a single version of the truth. Previously, if somebody wanted some information about assets, we would give them a report, maybe extracted from different sources. Now we have one single version. We know that the data set within Ultimo is complete. We know it's the truth, so what's been logged in there is what we're going to produce. And essentially, we can trust that data. We've got confidence in the reports that we're producing. From a manager's perspective, they have accurate tracking of technicians' time. So for any corrective maintenance, any unplanned faults come through, we know who's working on what. And on the flip side of that, for any preventative maintenance, we have, we can distribute those plans a bit more evenly through the different shifts for each team. And then from the technician base, the lovely technicians who are, not power users, but they take a lot of their jobs from the system. Now the job process is more streamlined. So we reduce the number of job statuses, we reduce the number of problem codes. So when they now close out a job, it's streamlined. They have a smaller selection of lists to choose from, and so they don't have to spend as much time on what they perceive to be admin tasks, and they have more technician time. Overall, obviously the system is more stable, a lot more stable than our predecessor, and really that results in a very, very positive end user experience, and that is across all our user groups, so system admin, technician, and management. So how did we get here? Rachel, let me hand over to you, and you can give us a little bit more detail about it.
Thank you, Innie, for your introduction. So I'm just going to go over the implementation of Ultimo at Gatwick. So we went live on the 28th of January 2019, so we're coming up to about 4 years now. The project actually commenced in 2018. We were lucky enough to have some of the Ultimo team on site, and this is where we designed our initial user groups, progress statuses, authorization levels, and so on. We did a pilot go live in December with one team for 2 weeks, and this was to test full functionality of the system and to iron out any issues before our official go live date. Now, this was really beneficial as we did come across a few issues, and had we left them until the official go live date, they would have been bigger, more problematic, and it would have just dampened the excitement of having a new system. And then early 2017, we started our data cleansing and preparation. So we spent a whole year on this. And as you can see from the stats on the screen, our asset records went from 130,000 to 85,000. Now, we got into some bad habits previously. So we were keeping each and every small piece of equipment on the system. So we had to ask ourselves a set of questions to sort of get this down. Was the asset maintained? Was it faultable? How much was it worth? And we went through this exercise with each team until we had cleansed our entire asset base. We implemented a location hierarchy. So we used to just store the building that an asset lived in. And then we implemented a 3-tier structure. So we record the building, the level, and the room. This has made fault finding a lot easier. So before, a technician would receive a job, for example, in the South Terminal, in a toilet, and we relied on the reporter actually putting in the detail about where that was. Now, they receive the job, and it's got the exact room number. The users went from about 2,000 down to about 800, and this was due to having no process in place when people left the business. Now, when IT deactivate accounts, the ticket comes through to us, we remove the users from the system, and that's how we stay on top of that. So managing users, we have around 20 user groups in Ultimo, and this is based on the job role. So that may sound like a lot, but sometimes for the same job role, we need different rights. So as an example, we've got a direct employee technician and a contracted employee technician. The contractor will only need to see what's relevant to their company, whereas a direct employee will need to see everything on the campus. We have 2 examples here of a manager. A maintenance manager will get more involved in the plans, and an asset manager just needs a broader overview of how the department is doing as a whole. This tailors the experience for each user group via dashboards, reports, user screens and menus, and more importantly, it provides a level of security to ensure only elements applicable to each group can be viewed and updated. I've included some examples of the screens. Don't know where I'm clicking. So as you can see, this is a technician start screen. It's a lot simpler. There's less menu items. The shortcuts, there's fewer shortcuts there. And this is a sys admin start screen. So it's a lot busier as we use a lot more of Ultimo. But again, it's applicable to the job role. It's relevant to us. If everybody signed in and saw the same screen, it wouldn't be as efficient and easy to navigate. I've included a business process example. So Innie touched on the fact that Ultimo integrates with Meridian, and this process touches both systems as well. So our asset loading process is how we actually get all assets installed into Ultimo. It's an external process to Gatwick for gathering asset information. The asset loader document is submitted via Meridian, and the template actually has the same authorization in line with Ultimo's data validation. This ensures that the data is sanitized from the outset. The asset loader is passed through to us. We decide out of the list what will be uploaded and what won't, and then we utilize Ultimo's data import tool to get the data into Ultimo. Now, this allows for a further level of checks. If any assets have slipped through the net or any errors, Ultimo will deny import into the system. Having such a process leads to, next slide.
I feel I should help you.
It's fine. Leads to data integrity. So we used to be in a world where so many people could put data into the system and they were all doing it in different ways. So we had so many different directions. Now with just 2 gatekeepers to the system and a streamlined process, we achieve consistency for each record. Maintenance plans can then be set up and reused across a particular asset base. Reports are set up to identify assets with a work plan gap. So this reduces the amount of maintainable assets being missed off of work plans. And then Ultimo will generate the jobs. Faults can start being raised against assets. And then we start building a history against said assets, which feeds into reports for the wider business. We try to include our user community by taking on suggestions and feedback when developing new processes, and having such a flexible and logical system makes our roles easier, and it's definitely won over our end users.
So where are we going, and actually what does the future look like between Ultimo and Gatwick Airport? So safe to say, Gatwick's values are probably what drives us. It's at the heart of what we do. So, and actually I was quite interested. I think we had some speakers who were on-prem who migrated to the cloud-based, so maybe we can speak later. But that is our intention, obviously, to upgrade to the latest cloud-based version from on-prem. Gives us a bit more resilience, again, one of our values. Increasing the number of modules. So pre-COVID, we actually had intentions. I think, Tice, you can vouch for this, of adding more modules onto our existing Ultimo offering. That was fleet and permits. And permits is quite close to my heart because I currently manage the permit to work system. That's all I'm going to say about that. And obviously that gives us a bit more resource. It allows us to work together. So whilst we have contractors currently who work, and use Ultimo, we have a different contractor base who will be using our permit side. So, that's something that we need to kind of bear in mind. But again, opens up so much opportunity. And then also we've got further integration. So we currently have what we call a community app, and that allows people to report faults against a particular asset. So if we've got an asset within Ultimo currently, they can use the community app basically to raise a fault. And we'd like to see that integration, how that works, maybe an API, I don't know. And then it would be great also to, we're implementing a pavement management system. So pavement management doesn't sound very exciting, but when we say it's for the runway and we can basically record accurate data, then it starts getting really interesting for us. So we can divide the runway into blocks. We can start reporting on little blocks, within from this app, which then can go straight into Ultimo. We can start trending, which areas are being faulted the most. And obviously this drives our ambition. We're kind of, I want to say cutting edge technology, but at least we're kind of thinking about all these different integrations. So in summary, so far our working with Ultimo has actually proven extremely successful, and I guess we'd like to continue and develop this more in the future. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ine and Rachel. Very nice.
You're welcome.
Maybe before we go to the questions, it's nice to show a short video on the types of assets we're talking about. Maybe. managed by Ultimo and these ladies. So
Thank you.
I think it's very interesting. They did a great job. They had a little bit of nerves all day because they were at the end of the program. But they've done such a great job. And also in the COVID period, something we don't like to talk about anymore, especially not with airport people. But it was a very challenging time. But nevertheless, thanks to the work you did, you kept the system asset integrity at a high level, right? Can you say a little bit about it, or is it too difficult to talk about it?
It's okay. We can talk about it if you want. So during COVID, it was obviously extremely difficult. I mean, luckily the project was implemented beforehand, so we had quite a large amount of training that went on. So actually, although the workforce was streamlined, we did maintain, kind of quite a high level of, I guess, the user base in terms of what they know for the actual, from the actual system. And then obviously coming out of the other side of that, although the workforce is still quite streamlined, we do kind of offer training, consistent training from ourselves. So yeah, hopefully we can retain that information and, kind of continue to strive forward with this side of COVID.
Okay, thank you. Berit, are there any other questions?
The only question that I'm so curious about is you started the presentation with a number of business outcomes, and obviously a lot of great things have been realized in collaboration with Ultimo. How would you rate the, let's say, time to value when you consider the long runway, the long period it took to finally get to where we are today? Can you talk a little bit about time to value when it comes to using Ultimo?
So I think, Rachel, actually, you mentioned we had an initial pilot when we launched, and we basically launched it with a very small team, and that was our shuttle team, so the trains that run between North and South Terminal. And so I guess with any system, our previous system we'd had in for over 10 years, so people were obviously reluctant to change. This may come as a surprise. And we did do the work with the small shuttle team to start with. I mean, it also means that we identified any kind of gaps in our training program. But within the 2 weeks, they were happy with what was going on, so we were happy with that. But then it's like a ripple effect. So they then start talking to their peers, and then that kind of reaches other engineering teams. So I'd say, since launch, I'd say within a few months, people were kind of coming on board with it. And I would say now, after 4 years, albeit 2 years of COVID, so after 4 years, our technician base is starting to come up, ask questions. Can Ultimo do this? Can we do this? So they're looking of ways to drive efficiency. So they're on board. It's good. I'd say within a couple of months, we definitely saw the benefits.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. One warm hand